Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode number 25 of the Unsung Heroes of the 2026 season. The Washougal National is in the books now. The second stretch of the Pro Motocross season is also in the books now. We have a couple weekends off, and then the final three races of the regular season. I am Trey Stire, your host. Thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, or on YouTube. I appreciate you tuning in to this week's episode. And it was a pretty tame weekend, honestly, considering what has gone on during a lot of the season. A lot of familiar faces and veterans scoring points. We will get into things and recap the top performers in the privateer ranks in both the 250 class and the 450 class in the Pacific Northwest. Once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll start out with the 250 class. Carson Mumford led the way once again in the 250 class on his AEO Power Sports KTM racing machine. He backed up that performance from Spring Creek and scored his best overall finish to date at Washougal 5-4 for fourth overall. Another phenomenal day from the number 71. He was strong all day long, and he was working forward in the first moto, passing a lot of different riders. He was 11th for part of the race early on, then just kept moving forward, gaining 6 spots, and then he set the stage for another great ending to the day. Of course, he latched onto that lead pack with Cole Davies, Ryder DeFrancisco, Chance Hymas, separated himself from the rest of the field, and by the end of the race, he was over 12 seconds clear of Julian Beaumaire and Levi Kitchen, who were in 5th and 6th. A great weekend once again for Mumphy. The team was stoked, and man, he's been riding a wave of momentum. He's been good all summer, but the last 2 weeks, he's really proven that he might be able to steal a podium in these next few rounds. Also, if you missed it last week, myself and my boss over at Transworld Motocross, Gavin Ayala, had the opportunity to speak with Carson on our TWMX recap show. You can find that on the Transworld Motocross YouTube page, and I also wrote a feature article relating to some of the topics we discussed. Out of the Darkness is live on motocross.com. You can check that out and hear some of Mumford's thoughts because he was very candid, very honest in his conversations with us. Speaking of typically strong privateers, once again, Dylan Schwartz, another top 10, the 16th of his 250MX career, third of the season, second in a row. Another great day in the summer of Schwartz, and he was around several of those Monster Energy Yamaha Star Racing riders, of course. Anybody wants to beat any factory racers, but when you're on a Yamaha and you have a bunch of the factory Yamaha guys behind you, it has to feel a little bit sweeter. He beat 4 Star Racing riders during the second moto and battled around them for a long time, and he's been perhaps the best 250MX privateer over the last few years. Been some ups and downs this summer, but Dylan Schwartz still proving that he is one of the best out there. A nice top 10 day from the number 42. Speaking of Yamaha riders, once again, we've got the Club MX Yamaha team in there. Hunter Yoder, a great day. Another season best finish, which is also his career best finish. 14th at Millville, he improved to 13th overall in Washougal, and he started second in that second moto, ran up front for a few laps. He got shuffled back, ran 7th for the majority of the race. Of course, these factory racers have a lot more experience running outdoors than Yoder. He just has a handful of starts outdoors. He's been growing a lot this summer. He keeps on getting better. Hunter Yoder, watch out for him to end the last part of the year strong in his 11th 250MX start, P13. The number 60 keeps on climbing. Continuing to climb also from MX6 Racing Kawasaki, Marshall Welton recorded his best moto finish of the year, best overall finish as well. He was right there behind in 14th, 12th place in the second moto, and he was hard to pass for some of those factory guys. Of course, Juju, Levi working their way through the pack in each race. Marshall Welton was not rolling over for those guys, and he shouldn't either. That's points paying positions. He should be able to fight with those guys. Marshall Welton was very impressive, and he keeps moving up in the playoff seating, of course. He'll probably be a wild card rider, but nonetheless, he'll have a chance to qualify for some of the postseason events and make some change at the end of the year. Trading places now. Avery Long and Lux Turner, they flipped their moto scores. Avery Long 1914, his former teammate Lux Turner 1419. Another solid day for Avery, who's got a lot better in this second part of the season after coming into the first part of the year dealing with illness and also fresh off an injury. 1914, a solid day for 16th overall. He qualified 24th, was a bit disappointing in the morning sessions, but he's a racer and racers race. Avery Long continuing to get better through the second part of the season. Let's see what he can accomplish in the final 3 rounds. Lux Turner, it was a bit of a weird afternoon for him. He drifted back toward the end of the first moto. Not sure what happened there, and he was also in the fight with some of those factory riders on Star Yamahas on some of the other bikes as well. He was more consistent at the end of the second moto, but he was 5 spots behind in 19th. Let's see what Lux can do if he can hit the few races after the break strong. Henry Miller continuing to get back up to full song, of course. This was his second race back from injury. He scored points in the first moto once again, P18. He was just 1 spot shy of points in Moto 2. He did fade back a little bit compared to the first moto once again, but 22nd this week. I believe it was 26th in the second moto at Millville. Henry continuing to get better, and of course, he will also be focusing on some Supercross. A lot of the guys we'll be talking about today, they have some Supercross coming up. The World Supercross Championship starting August 8th, Calgary, Alberta. Henry will be competing for the Venom Bud Racing Kawasaki team this year. He'll be staying aboard a KX 250, but for the French organization that has competed for so long in the sport. Gavin Towers, 24-20 in his first trip to Washougal as a pro, aboard his Phoenix Racing Honda. It was a tale of two stretches so far in the summer. The first 4 rounds, Towers scored only 4 points. The last 4 rounds, he's put 18 on the board, a good bit better for the sophomore. Preston Bays flew, one of the cool stories of the weekend. Of course, he is from Washington. His first race in a year, February 2025, the last time Bays flew was competing at a pro race. He was back. He said he's taken a step away from the sport over the last year to heal from some injuries. He broke his femur early in the Supercross season last year while riding for PRMX Kawasaki. Also had some issues with what he described as heat stroke in 2024 and a bad summer struggling with the bike. He was back with the Toyota Redlands Bar-X Yamaha team, who he rode for in 2024. Of course, they were still a Suzuki team at that time, but he had a rough 18 months there for a while, took a step away from racing. He's been training some younger riders at his family property and helping them get in tip-top shape, helping them with their technique. And he was back number 428 on Saturday. He scored a 20th in the first moto, his first outdoor points since an appearance at that track at Washougal in 2023 when he was still in the amateur ranks for the Orange Brigade KTM team. He went from last to 30th at the end of the day, not close to points, but still a decent charge through the field from somebody who has been absent for a long time. It was probably a one-off appearance, but nonetheless, cool to see Bays Flug back on the gate after so long away from the sport. Speaking of Bar-X, another one of those boys, Cole Timbo, final point of the afternoon, 21st place to end the day. He ended the day on the lead lap and 15 seconds clear of Henry Miller to score a point for the second straight week. And Brock Bennett was your final point scorer in the overall sheet from the McGinley Clinic Privateer Support Program, number 159 on a Husqvarna. He was 21st in the first moto. He lost 9 spots after an early crash, but he gained 4 of them back to get back into the points. Unfortunately, some kind of issue at the end of the day, not sure if it was mechanical or if it was a crash, but Bennett pulled off early and finished 39th at the end of the afternoon. Now for some news and notes outside of the points in the 250 class. Liam Aloff was back in action aboard the Partzilla Rocket Blaster Power PRMX Kawasaki. He joined the Supercross season a little bit late at Indianapolis, qualified for the main event, but Unfortunately, Alof got injured shortly afterwards, and he was back at Washougal for his first pro national, 22-26, just outside of the points in the first moto. It was a learning day for Liam, and he was the first PRMX rider to compete in the 250 class this summer. Of course, Jack Chambers, Hamden Hudson moved up to the 450 ranks. Taylor McCutcheon has competed in WMX. Of course, Money Mitch there. We'll talk about him in a couple minutes. But the PRMX team back in the 250 ranks, great to see Liam back in action. Brandon Ray had a great weekend. He wasn't able to score points on Saturday, but it was all right because Thursday night he was lights out at the annual Thursday night motocross event, Portland International Raceway. He was on a KTM 450, which is definitely a change from his usual Triumph 250, but he took home nearly $10,000. He hole shot and won his heat race, and then he did the same exact thing in the main event. Hole shot, cruised to a victory. A great weekend for Brandon in the money department. And then on Saturday, he went 30-25 for 30th overall. It was his first AMA National since Hangtown in the beginning of June. Great to see B-Ray back out there. Hayes Edwards, we spoke with him last week. Of course, the number 146 on the EBR Performance Family Power Sports Yamaha. Unfortunately, his engine let go. Of course, privateers, a lot of times just racing with one bike throughout the summer. I'm sure Hayes is in that boat. And unfortunately, first moto, he was riding around 25th or so, and the engine expired. Did not line up later in the day. Hopefully, he'll be back and ready to roll for the final three nationals. But a bummer after gaining some momentum with a point at Southwick and a couple points in each moto at Millville. Now, time to talk about the top 450 privateers on Saturday, and it was Money Mitch leading the way, fourth top 15 in the last 5 events for Mitchell Harrison aboard his PRMX Kawasaki 11:15. It was a tale of two starts for Mitchell. He started fifth in the first moto, running up around the factory racers, a great start. But later in the day, he started 15th, which doesn't sound bad until you learn that he went down on the first lap and ended up taking the green flag in 38th. So he had a lot of work to do. Ended up gaining 23 spots after he went down. A very valiant comeback from Mitchell. He is only 11 points below the automatic spots in the playoffs, but the magic number right now would probably be 31. A few guys ahead of him still out there competing in the Nationals, like Justin Barcia, like Mikkel Harup. 31 would be the amount of points he needs to jump over Justin Hill, who will most likely not be at the final 3 rounds of the summer. He could also jump Joey Savacci with a few more points past that as well. But 31 could be the magic number for the number 41. Then a couple spots behind him, one spot behind him, we have Lorenzo Locurcio on the Wildcat Race Team Gas Machine. What a phenomenal run from Locurcio. His best afternoon of the year so far. 15-13 for 13th overall. Coincidentally, his best result since Washougal a year ago, where he also finished 13th. A great day for Lorenzo, and he beat Eli Tomac as well. Another classic Locurcio Tomac battle. When have we ever said that before? But it was a great afternoon for Lorenzo in the trees in the hills of Washougal. There were a couple veteran racers returning to action in the 450 class. Freddie Noren was back after his foot injury. Had to have part of one of his toes amputated after Redbud, which is insane. That derailed his chances to secure the all-time 450 MX start record this year, but that's all right. He's still climbing that list on his Gizmo Racing Yamaha machine. 20th to start today, but a great run to end 11th place, his best moto finish of the year. Fast Freddy is back, and it looks like he hasn't missed a beat. Vince Friese was also back in action, another one of the racers who will be running some World Supercross here soon. Of course, he'll be competing for the Stark Future team on one of the electric machines, but Vince was returning on his ISRT Kawasaki on Saturday, showed off his traditional strong starting ability, on that bike, and he ended up going 19-16 during the motos, good enough for 17th overall, and he scored his first points since Hangtown. Missed a couple rounds, had some bike issues at a couple rounds, pulled out of High Point after qualifying. So it was great to see Vince get back on the right track. Speaking of getting back on the right track, getting closer to where they should be each and every single weekend, Jack Chambers scoring points for the second time this summer. 18-19, very consistent day for the 450 MX rookie. It seems like these last rounds before breaks suit him pretty well because he scored at High Point. Now he scored again at Washougal. He had some bad starts, but he worked forward during the day. Let's see if he can end the season on a high note. Jack will also be racing the Calgary WSX race here next weekend. He will be filling in for Jake Cannon at the Bud Racing Kawasaki team. Of course, Cannon competing in the EMX 250 championship. He is in second right now in the standings over there. The Gizmo Racing Yamaha team put all three of their 450 riders inside the points. Stefan Rubini, 16th to begin the day. Unfortunately, a 23rd to end the day, a couple spots shy of the points, but he scored once again. Rubini has continued to get better and better throughout the summer. Valentin Guillot, though, he admitted to struggling at Washougal. He said he's out of gas after 8 races in 9 weeks. Of course, Guillot just returned, barely had any time on the bike before Fox Raceway after his big qualifying crash in Cleveland. Fox, he didn't score any points, but he got back better at Hangtown. Thunder Valley, of course, he was the top privateer at High Point. Of course, motocross takes such a physical toll, especially when you have very little training going into the year. Of course, he's been working in the weeks since, but going into the summer, hardly any time on the bike. The physical toll of pro motocross, catching up with the Swiss veteran. He scored 2 points, 29-20 on Saturday, but he's still the top privateer in the standings, so he can take solace in that 13th overall in the series right now. Speaking of a couple other riders who are looking for more, SLR Honda's Justin Rodbell, he was the final point scorer of the day. 21st in the second moto, 22nd to begin the day, one spot short, and then the final point of the day. And Grant Harlan on the KMR Champion Tool Storage KTM. It's been a rough couple weeks for Grant. He said he's been struggling with the bike and needs to get more comfortable, needs to hone in setup wise. He was 21-24 on Saturday, finishing 23rd overall. Let's see if Harlan can get that KTM figured out a bit better. He was solid during Supercross. Some good rounds in motocross, but some struggles as well, of course. A few years on a Yamaha, really meshing with that bike as well. So let's see him. Let's see how he's able to do in the last 3 rounds on that orange machine. Finally, some news and notes from the 450 class. Devin Simonson, the first rider outside of the points on the Club MX Yamaha 23-22. A bit of a disappointing round for Devin as well, and now he'll be heading to Calgary on a Rick Ware Racing machine. Dayton Briggs, his best finish since switching to a Yamaha. He was second at the race at PIR that Brandon Ray won, and he scored his best 450 MX finish so far, 29th overall for the popular privateer. And how about Gary Sutherland? They were calling him Grandpa Gary on the broadcast. The former Works champion who's working for Fly Racing during the week. He made his first pro motocross start in 2 decades since he raced at the same venue in 2006. He was third in the consolation race to qualify for the motos, 34th overall, 33-35 scores for Gary. Always cool to see some of the veterans of the sport come back, whether they were off-road specialists, pro motocross specialists. Either way, they are putting on for some of the veteran racers. Shout out to Gary. Welcome back to pro motocross. Thank you for tuning in this week. A bit of a short and sweet episode, but the Unsung Heroes of Washougal was in the books. 25 rounds of the regular season, of course. 17 rounds of Supercross ended in May. 8 rounds of Pro Motocross done. 3 more to go. Unadilla, Budds Creek, and Ironman. Of course, I will continue to wrap up the top privateer scores for the remainder of the season and into the playoffs. Enjoy your break. I know I will. I'm going to go unwind for a bit, take a nice little break, and then hit the last 3 swinging Thank you so much for tuning in once again. Enjoy the next couple weeks, and I'll see you after Unadilla.